It is Sunday, the 16th of May 2021, and I've titled this video Papering Over the Cracks. It could just as well have been called Applying a Sticking Plaster to a Broken Leg, because in many ways it feels as if that's what the sick controllers are now having to do. I've mentioned on a few occasions in previous videos my thoughts that the so-called elites, our would-be overlords, are just not going to be able to succeed long-term with their master plan, with their New World Order, Agenda 21, Great Reset, full imposition of Chinese-style communism, martial law, 5G, smart grid, AI-controlled dystopia. Because the cat is too much out of the bag now. The genie is too far out of the bottle, to mix some metaphors. There have been so many insiders and whistleblowers that have now come forward, whether it's doctors and other medical professionals, NHS nurses, in the case of here in the UK, the likes of Dr. Mike Yeadon of Pfizer. There have been politicians, there have been journalists, not many, but a few mainstream names have been breaking ranks. Tucker Carlson on Fox continues to keep dropping truth bombs. What's going on there? Is this controlled opposition, or is he actually seeping through and getting some truth out there, going against the narrative? But whatever the case, there's now so much awareness of the phenomenal amount of lies and deceptions that we've been told by those that we are entrained to trust, the government, the mainstream media. There's so much proof now that everything about the C-word narrative is phony and fake and based on bad science and based on straight lies, straight mistruths. Where is all that going to go? Is it even possible to get all that back in the bag or in the bottle, depending on which metaphor you prefer? What about all the energy that's been involved in people that have come forward to blow the whistle on what's really going on? People have put their careers and their reputations on the line. Again, not enough, but some have, in order to communicate the truth about what's going on and advise everyone that the governments are lying to us around the world. The energy, the effort, the will that was involved on the part of all these people in coming forward and putting this out there, where is that going to go? That's just not going to be dissipated. Similarly, I think about all the prayer and all the positive intent and energy and will that's been put out there by so many people around the world over the course of the past 14 months or however long it's been. Just imagine the sheer concentration of energy, of frequency, of vibration that's been cast out there into the ether by, if not hundreds of millions, then billions of people around the world that have been traumatized and left shocked by what's been done to us in all these countries around the world. Where's all that going? What's happening to all that energy and that intent? That can't be just fizzling out and dissipating into the morphic field. That's got to be going somewhere. That's got to be heard and responded to by the mechanism of the universe, or God, if you want to refer to this power by that name. None of this is going to be reversible, in my view. It's just not going to be possible for the sick would-be controllers to see this thing through now. They've been too arrogant, too audacious, they've shown their hand, and they've made it too bloody obvious what they're up to. You know, everything that's been dropped on us over the past year plus is reminiscent of a James Bond movie plot, isn't it? With Klaus Schwab as the archetypal James Bond villain, complete with the comic German accent. You know, he comes across as a Blofeld type character. I expect to see him stroking a white cat whenever he makes a broadcast. And, you know, just think about the audacity of the plot to imprison and enslave the entire world's population under a communistic smart grid AI system. It is something straight out of a James Bond movie plot. And if you'd suggested to the average normie, let's say a year and a half ago, that this was going to be introduced and they would be able to get away with it, nobody would have believed you. And they'd have said, you're watching too many movies, you need to get with reality a bit more, mate. And yet, that's what's being achieved. And I don't make the point to focus on how easy it's been for them to get the job done. I make the point to illustrate that it is so farcical, it is so ridiculous, it is so absurd, it is something straight out of a James Bond movie plot, that it cannot be taken through to its full fruition. Listen to what Klaus Schwab and his mates are telling us in terms of how they want us to be living in the future. You will own nothing and you'll be happy. They think that the entire world's population is just going to put up with having communistic ideals instilled upon it against its will, all based on provable lies and bad science, and everyone's just going to be okay with that and roll over and take it. I know the resistance is very slow in coming. I know it's nowhere near on the scale that we need it to be. But we are getting there. Things are gathering momentum. We are making steps in the right direction. The information wars have to continue, because what we now have is the psychological industrial complex using propaganda and fear-based mind control to achieve its aims. But we, the people, the 99%, the majority, who do not consent to living under tyranny and enslavement, have these tools at our disposal as well to disseminate empowering, uplifting, truthful information to offset all the lies that we're getting from the mainstream. So those info wars will continue, and that is the nature of this war that we find ourselves in. And I really don't think that the sick controllers have many more places they can go unless they want to take things to full-scale, all-out martial law involving trying to mobilise the military against the people. I like to think that they wouldn't take things that far. I like to think that there would be enough dissent within the ranks of the military and the police and other aspects of government enforcement, whereby that would be an impossibility for them to achieve. Because if it really came down to that crunch, there would be many within the ranks that would not be prepared to go against their own people, their own families, their own relatives, their own friends, in imposing this madness. And that's a worst case scenario. That's a very drastic and desperate scenario. We are seeing some desperation on the part of the so-called control system. So I've just taken a message from the Bernician, Michael O'Bernacea, regarding his private criminal prosecution cases against Hancock, Whitty, Ferguson and Vallance. A lot of people have been wondering where that's been going. Things have been quite quiet on that front since the last show that we did. I mean, Michael has taken on a monumental task in attempting to get these four held fully to account for the harm, damage and loss that they've caused. And he tells me that there was an attempt to sabotage the case within the High Court system. So there was an individual on the inside who attempted to hide, lose evidence that was going to be presented towards the judge. Fortunately, this has been discovered. It's been found out. And I'm about to do a show with Michael to update everyone on the latest in that case. I'm told that it is far from over. I'm told that this attempt to scupper it has failed and has indicated just how desperate the control system is to have this case buried. And if they didn't feel that it had merit or that it could go anywhere, they wouldn't have resorted to such desperate, fraudulent methods. So watch out for that show very soon. I'm going to be recording it as soon as I can after this video and putting it up on the channel. Then, talking of desperation, what do you make of the old Indian variant? Eh? That story that's now seeping into the mainstream. How bloody predictable, how tedious, how tiresome, how infantile. Did they really think they'd get away with this one? You know, a few months ago, Johnson was saying that he didn't see any reason why this route out of lockdown couldn't go as planned. So tomorrow, 17th of May, we're told certain restrictions get relaxed. You can sit inside a pub or a restaurant, for instance. You don't have to sit outside getting lashed by the wind and the rain in a beer garden anymore with the canopy blowing off. We're told that cinemas and bowling alleys and other indoor places can reopen tomorrow, but the next stage on this so-called roadmap out of lockdown was going to be the 21st of June, the summer solstice, you note. These occultists love doing things by these magical dates. And that was going to be the date where we were told we would get most of our freedoms back and these outrageous restrictions could be relaxed. So long as, and here was the proviso, so long as nothing came along to scupper those plans and cause any concern or any reason why things couldn't be lifted in this way. So, surprise, surprise, what do you know? There's apparently an Indian mutant variant of the virus. And we've had footage put out there of people apparently dropping dead in the street in India, except this is another provable example of fake news coming through the mainstream. There's been video footage circulating of people that are said to be falling dead in the street of the Indian variant of the virus, and it's been shown and proven beyond doubt that this is footage from a gas leak from a manufacturing plant in India some time ago, where people were actually falling dead from poisonous gas that was in the air. So once again, the fake news media, i.e. the mainstream, have been caught lying, as they have so many times in the past, when they were putting out footage of people apparently dying in COVID wards in a hospital. And the same footage was said to be happening in Italy, as was said to be happening in America. Exactly the same piece of footage, claiming it's from two different hospitals. It's the same as the footage we had in the wake of the events of 9/11, where there were a bunch of Arabs dancing gleefully and partying, and we were told that they were celebrating the demise of the World Trade Center towers and all the other damage and chaos that was caused by 9/11 because these Arabs, these Muslims, hate America and Western values so much. That was proven to be footage from a completely unconnected previous event. And the media just keeps on doing this time and time again. They've got a strong track record of putting out fake footage. You know, really, how far can they go with this? It is, to me, damage limitation. It is, to me, papering over the cracks. And it is an indicator that in the long run, so long as we all keep our efforts stepped up in many different ways, then we can get this. We have to get this because the alternative is unthinkable. We cannot allow ourselves, the entire world, to get put into dystopian slavery like they've got planned for us. And as I said in my previous video, it's got to happen this summer. It's got to happen during this narrow window of opportunity that we have in the weeks and months ahead to put this down. And I believe we will. Because even the most calcified, conditioned normie, BBC watcher, Daily Mail reader, Boris Johnson believer, is surely now starting to question the validity of what we're being told. What were the chances really of this Indian variant coming along right at the time when we're told we can start to get our freedoms back? Who can't see this? It seems impossible that at this late stage in the game, there are still people who have yet to wake up and may well still wake up to the truth of what's really going on. But that could still happen. The more blatantly obvious the tricks of these psychopaths become. What seems to be happening is the bastards seem to be using as a playbook this SPARS pandemic document that appeared on the internet a while back. It's been heavily circulated. A friend of mine has done a great dissection and breakdown of the main points contained within it, which I'll include in the show notes below, plus where you can get hold of a copy of the document. But it goes by the catchy title that just rolls off the tongue of the SPARS Pandemic 2025 to 2028, a futuristic scenario to facilitate medical countermeasure communication. Easily memorable, I'm sure you would agree. And This comes from the Johns Hopkins and Bloomberg School of Public Health Controlled Center for Health Security. Johns Hopkins University has previous when it comes to exercises such as this, as they were one of the partners involved in Event 201, alongside the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Incidentally, I'm sure we were all very saddened to hear of poor old Bill and Melinda splitting after all these years. Their marriage has apparently, reached crisis point and they're dissolving. I'm sure we all wish them very well with that, and I'm sure there's nothing more to it, such as Bill trying to protect all his wealth, for instance, by putting it in Melinda's name. I'm sure that's not what this is all about at all. I'm sure Bill doesn't fear that certain parties are going to come after him and hold him accountable for his genocide and crimes against humanity through his vaccination program. I'm sure it's nothing to do with that whatsoever. So we got this SPARS document, and it was supposed to be one of these preparedness exercises, considering, what would we do should a deadly virus pandemic come along? Just say it did. Just suppose, this thing blew up out of nowhere. Supposing, maybe a guy ate a bat in a wet market in Wuhan, China, and the virus kind of mutated from that and spread all around the world due to international air travel. Just supposing that sort of thing happened. Highly unlikely, I know, but what would we do? How would we prepare for that? That's what this document was all about. And it lays out all the measures that, of course, we're seeing put into place now. And whereas this document was supposed to be set in a fictional scenario in the years 2025 to 2028, they just seem to have fast-tracked it by 5 years. So for 2025, read 2020, and for 2028, read 2023. So everything seems to be happening during this 3-year span as it was predicted in that document. I don't know if they got a bit ahead of themselves. I don't know if they started to panic, thinking they don't have many more years to get this done, so they had to speed it through early, or I don't know if the plan was always to unleash this in 2020. I suspect it was. But that seems to be what we're experiencing. So if we study this document and we look at where they want to take things, we can get a good inside view of the next likely steps that they're going to try to impose. So this needs to be circulated widely. It would be great if this could get out into the mainstream in some way. We do our best. But who can't see how tragic and transparent this all now is? And that's only going to continue as they get more and more desperate. What needs to happen, of course, is if they try to pull this Indian variant stunt and say that on June 21st you can't, after all, have all your rights and freedoms back. Not that they ever were able to take those away from us in the first place, because these rights and freedoms come from God, come from creation, not from some man-made entity called government. But supposing they try and continue the lockdowns and continue to say you've got to wear masks, you've got to distance, there's limits on how many people you can have in your house, there's limits on social gatherings, nightclubs can't open, that kind of thing. There needs to be mass resistance to this time. This needs to be the last straw. This needs to be the point where people say, enough now, enough. We are not complying with this any longer. And not just us awake and aware types, not just truthers. Regular people, people that own businesses, people that just want their lives back. It's got to stop here, people. It's got to stop. And we need to do whatever is necessary to get this message through to as many people in our own circles of friends and family as we possibly can. There are doubtless going to be more of these protest rallies through the summer. There was one in Manchester yesterday. I hear there was a blockade of the BBC building there as well, which is great stuff. There was a big one in Birmingham. They were going on all over the place, I believe. Next weekend, Saturday the 22nd, there's one in Bournemouth and many other towns and cities, I'm sure. Apparently the next big one in London is on the 29th of May, and it's only going to continue into June and throughout the rest of the summer for as long as these events are necessary. And yes, they do have value because they do send a visual indicator to those that are watching that large numbers of people, increasing all the time, are not having it anymore and can see through the scam. The lies aren't working. Why else did they need to wheel the Queen, whether it was a CGI deepfake or an actor, out for the Queen's speech the other day, announcing that police are going to be given new powers to crack down on protesters? Why would they need to do that if they didn't feel these events were becoming a threat, and if they didn't want to diminish the visual signal that they send out to anyone that's watching that our movement, our resistance is growing all the time, and it can no longer be stopped because the momentum is up, the exponential growth is in effect, and nothing's going to stop that. They'll try every trick in the book, but long term, they're not going to be able to achieve it. That's the way it has to be. The mailbag. Communications sent in by viewers to the videos. I've just got one message to read out this time. And like all of them, it speaks for itself. So let's just get into what this individual emailed me to say. I'm fed up with the nanny state, either a national security issue or now saying people wouldn't be able to handle the truth. So we keep getting this narrative that there are good things going on in the backgrounds. There's this white hat alliance, seemingly arrests are taking place, but we're told we can't get to know about it. We can't get the detail of it because we couldn't handle that kind of truth. We're not equipped. We've just got to trust those parties that are getting this done and believe that it's happening. So this person is speaking to that dynamic. Why hide the fact that they got rid of Bush and McCain to protect their families? This is why we're in this mess. We need the protection from them. I don't want any government. We can organise our communities locally. It's the governments that create the wars and the false flags and all of this and use us to execute their wishes. At least Napoleon led his army, or perhaps that was another lie, like all of history. Who knows about any of this? Like yourself, I'm very sceptical as we've been let down so many times. As far as I'm concerned, we need truth and transparency with everything. We are not their children and we refuse to be their slaves. But to finish on a good note, they can't stop what's coming. Too many people are awake and growing. We just need to find our way through the haze and create a parallel universe and stop funding them. They aren't even smart, as they just keep using the same playbook all the time. Exactly. So that message reinforces pretty much everything else that I've put out in this video. So the show with Michael O'Bernisia, the Bernician, is imminent. That will be on the channel very soon. We'll get an update on the attempt at sabotage in that case and how that's now been stopped in its tracks. Over the weekend, I put out a presentation as part of the Seed for Growth conference taking place out of the United States. This was an event that was due to take place this weekend, just gone live and in person. It should have taken place as a gathering in May of 2020. Of course, it had to be postponed. It was put to May 2021, and with the ongoing insanity, it had to be postponed as a live event again. So it took place as an online streamed event going through the One Great Work Network platform. Great many speakers over the weekend. Sean McCann did a talk, Brandon Martin, Nate Kapp, Mark Passio finished the whole thing off. Nathan Redette did a talk there. My presentation was titled Music's Military and Mind Control Connections. And that is going to be uploaded to my YouTube channel in a few days. So having gone out on the Seed for Growth conference platform, that presentation is going to be available for anyone who didn't catch the conference over the weekend to view it in their own time. Look out for that on the channel shortly. Really getting back to the core roots of my work. And that continues through Musical Truth Volume 3, which I'm currently writing. It's going really well. I'm probably at about the halfway point now. There's a whole load of new information in there that I've not put out before. I'm very encouraged with how the whole project is developing. So the aim there is to get this book out by the end of this year. And that is limiting the number of shows that I'm going to be able to jump on myself. I am having to turn down lots of interview requests now because I quite simply do not have the time. Writing and researching this book is taking up huge swathes of my time and my energy. I've got many other things going on in my life, both in terms of work, professional stuff and home life, family stuff. To say there are one or two pressures and challenges is an understatement. So I'm doing my best to get it all done, but to finish this book when I want to it means I'm having to limit the number of other shows that I can do. So there won't be that many guest appearances from me over the months ahead. Just can't be done. Other than that, just want to thank Brandon Martin and the rest of the crew for putting on the Seed Conference over the weekend. Some great empowering information talking about ways in which we could be living so much better and not counterproductively as we currently are under the control system that we currently have, but which hopefully is not going to be around for too much longer. So if anyone wants to recap on any of the other presentations from that conference, they're all available via the One Great Work network.com. That's it for this time around. Keep the correspondence coming in. I do attempt to answer all messages that I get. And of course, we have the mailbag function as part of the video now, where I read out some of the most potent comments that people have sent me to really reinforce some points. Catch you next time around. Let's continue to get this job done.